Today, more children go to school than at any other point in human history. Globally, around 90% of primary-age school children have enrolled in school. The challenge is that just 37% reach a good level of learning by the end of primary school. 63% of primary-age children globally do not have even a basic level of learning. They're in school, but they're not learning. That's unfair, leaves them unable to access the opportunities the 21st century offers them, and creates an economic time bomb for countries around the world. So, what do we know? From around the age of 4, when you first step into a classroom until you leave school, hopefully around the age of 18, a child spends about 1 million minutes in school. Changing what they learn means changing what happens in those 1 million minutes. And those minutes aren't equally important. The first 150,000 minutes are critical, laying the foundation for everything that comes after. Studies show that by age 4, a child from a less educated family can already be 1 or 2 years behind one from a more educated family. If you don't close that gap early, it just gets wider. If a child can't read well by age 8, they'll struggle in almost every other subject. For instance, one study followed disadvantaged children who attended a high-quality preschool program and showed radical differences in their lives by age 27, higher test scores throughout school, an increased likelihood of school graduation, and a much higher chance of meeting basic achievement standards at 14, higher earnings, better jobs, and greater home ownership. At age 40, participants were earning 42% more than the control group, demonstrating that the profound impact of what happened during those early minutes. For decades, governments and organizations have poured immense resources into education reform. Most developed countries more than doubled their education spending over the last 4 decades. Yet, studies show that despite dramatic increase in education spending, very few of those countries achieved a substantial achievement in school system performance. And in some, performance actually declined. For example, Australia, New Zealand, and France more than tripled their spending per student. But their mathematics and science scores either stayed the same or got worse. Many widely supported strategies, like reducing class sizes or giving schools more autonomy, haven't produced the promised results. And all of that during a period where we've seen technology revolutionize almost every sector of our lives. It just feels like a problem too complex, too entrenched to ever truly solve. Actually, no, it's not too complex. For the first time in human history, we actually know what to do. The blueprint for dramatically improving education, even at a global scale, is now clearer than ever before. Decades of research have given us much of the data and evidence we need to cut through the political noise and opinions. We no longer have to guess what works. We've identified core areas that make all the difference. Things like getting the right curriculum to become teachers, developing effective leadership, and creating a 21st century curriculum. We've analyzed 25 school systems, including top performers like Finland and Singapore. We found that successful systems share fundamental similarities, proving that substantial improvements are achievable quickly. This is the emerging science of delivery. Proven methods for large-scale implementation. How do we tackle this massive challenge? How do we fix those 1 million minutes for every child? We'll uncover how the countries doing it best are often the ones spending less, but achieving more, and why conventional wisdom about class size might actually be holding us back. What if I told you that spending more money on schools could actually make results worse? Sounds crazy, right? With less funding, we imagine crammed classrooms, stressed teachers, and kids falling behind. But the data says otherwise. When we compare systems worldwide, the top performers often spend less. And the big spenders? Not so great. Why? Because the usual belief that smaller classes are always better just isn't true. Once you're under about 25 to 30 students, shrinking class sizes doesn't make a huge difference. But here's the catch. If you cut class sizes everywhere, you'll need thousands more teachers. Budgets get stretched, salaries drop, the job loses status, schools can't be as picky, and quality falls. What matters isn't class size, it's how good the teacher is. A great teacher can move students 3 times faster than a weak one. A bad teacher can actually drag scores backwards. That's why countries like South Korea and Singapore win. Fewer teachers, higher pay, tougher standards. So when you think about education reform, don't think of class sizes or head counts. Think of teachers, because the quality of an education system cannot exceed the quality of its teachers. But how did these top-performing systems actually get the right people into teaching? You might think a world-class education system needs endless money or unique culture. But look at Singapore. This small island nation consistently tops global charts in math, science, and reading. Their secret? I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The quality of a school system cannot exceed the quality of its teachers. And how did Singapore get the best teachers? Let me show you. It begins with a relentless focus on getting the right people. In Singapore, teaching isn't just a job. It's an elite profession. Applicants must have graduated in the top third of their class. They only accept 1 in 12 candidates that apply for teacher training. That's just 8%. Secondary teachers must major in the subject they teach. This isn't accidental. The Ministry of Education centrally manages this rigorous selection. But it's not just about getting smart people. Singapore pays teachers during training. This makes the career immediately attractive. Once hired, teachers get 100 hours of fully paid professional development every single year. This continuous learning reinforces their high status. And here's the surprise. Singapore maintains larger class sizes. And you know why. To spend more on each teacher, making the profession even more appealing. Because teacher quality matters far more than class size. The system fosters a low tolerance for failure. Teachers are continuously evaluated, and underperformers are quickly supported or, if needed, removed. So this is about ensuring every child benefits. By making teaching a highly selective, continuously developed, and deeply valued profession, Singapore proves that with focused investment in people, breakthrough change for citizens is not just possible, but achievable. We've seen how getting the right teachers is essential. But how do you make sure those teachers thrive and every classroom truly shine? The answer is school leadership. The research is clear. Effective school leadership is second only to teaching itself in shaping student learning. A great principal doesn't just balance budgets. They set the tone, raise expectations, and build a culture of growth. Without strong leadership, schools drift and students suffer. Top systems know this, and they focus on 3 main things. First, who becomes a leader? Singapore rigorously selects teachers with leadership potential using years of in-school assessment to gauge real-world skills. Second, how they're trained. In Singapore, future principals go through executive-style courses and even private internships. KIPP schools run a year-long program with apprenticeships under proven principals. And third, how leaders spend their time. The best systems free principals from endless administration. Instead, they're in classrooms every day, coaching teachers, talking to students, driving instruction forward. As one Boston principal said, being a teacher is about helping children learn. Being a principal is about helping adults learn. By selecting the right people, training them deeply, and focusing their time on what matters, these systems create engines of school-wide improvement. They ensure quality isn't left to chance, so every child benefits from excellent teaching, and every school builds a brighter future. We've seen how great teachers and strong leaders are essential. But how do you make sure that excellence translates into high achievement for every student? It takes more than effort. It takes raising the bar and relentlessly measuring progress. Top systems don't just hope for success. They define it. They set clear, ambitious expectations for what every child should achieve. Not just memorizing facts, but building problem-solving and critical thinking. Alberta, Canada benchmarks its exams against international tests like PISA and TMSS, ready to raise standards if students fall behind. But setting standards is only half the battle. You can't improve what you don't measure. That's why top systems monitor progress consistently to see what's working and where kids are falling behind. England, for example, boosted literacy and numeracy in just 3 years with national training programs tied to evidence-based monitoring. And approaches vary. Some countries use public accountability. Others, like Finland and Hong Kong, keep results confidential to avoid teaching to the test, or pushing weaker students aside. Instead, they use data to guide teachers, refine strategies, and intervene early. The result? A feedback loop that keeps raising quality. High expectations, smart measurement, and targeted support ensure progress isn't left to chance. It becomes reality, driving every child closer to their potential and fueling real breakthrough change. We've uncovered how to attract great teachers and develop strong leaders. But how do you build a system where they don't just survive, but thrive, and where excellence spreads to every child? The answer lies in something often overlooked: the very structure of the school system itself. For decades, reform focused only on structures that had fallen flat. New Zealand, after overhauling its entire system, admitted it was naive to assume that classroom quality would improve just because we changed our structure. Structures alone don't create great teaching. Top performers designed theirs to balance 3 critical, often conflicting goals: empowerment, accountability, and collaboration. This is the tight, loose dilemma, firm enough to spread best practice, loose enough for innovation. First, empowerment. Like top companies, high-performing systems cut bureaucracy and give schools real autonomy. Skilled teachers are trusted to adapt and innovate without endless prescription from the center. Second, accountability. Not about punishment or public shaming. Some countries publish results. Others, like Hong Kong, keep assessments private. The point is improvement, using data to spot problems early and deliver targeted support so every child succeeds. And third, collaboration. In Japan, teachers engage in lesson study, planning and evaluating lessons together. Every week includes time for joint planning and curriculum work. These structures ensure best practices spread, knowledge flows, and the whole system keeps learning. By balancing empowerment, accountability, and collaboration, top systems turn rigid bureaucracies into dynamic learning organizations. They solve the tight, loose dilemma and create environments where every teacher can be great, every lesson can be powerful, and breakthrough change becomes a consistent reality. We've seen how to attract great teachers and strong leaders. But here's the critical question: how do we make sure that every teacher has the skills to deliver excellent instruction every single day? Experts are clear. The only way to improve outcomes is to improve instruction. For too long, professional development meant workshops or lectures, far removed from real classrooms. Top-performing systems know better. They treat teacher growth as continuous, practical, and built into daily school life. Think of a surgeon. You would never let them operate after lectures alone. They need an apprenticeship. Teachers, too, develop tacit knowledge through modeling, coaching, and guided practice. Look at the model developed in Shanghai for teacher development. New teachers receive training delivered mainly in schools with intensive coaching and support. They are assigned mentors, top educators who receive prestige and provide one-on-one coaching and give feedback several times a week. Teaching is treated as a public activity, openly shown, observed, and criticized by peers. And this is crucial. Teachers spend a large portion of each week working collectively to analyze data, plan joint lessons, and observe one another. This culture of constant learning and collective refinement is the only way to reliably deliver great instruction. The Boston Teacher Residency immerses trainees 4 days a week in schools under expert mentors, much like a medical residency. In England, national strategies placed coaches in every primary school, raising literacy and numeracy outcomes in just 3 years. By investing in practical skills, continuous support, and peer learning, these systems transform every classroom. They show that when every teacher becomes effective, every child gains access to high-quality instruction, and real breakthrough change becomes possible. We've seen how to lay foundations of a great education system: the right teachers, strong leaders, high standards. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Even with all that, a child's postcode, family income, or background too often determines their destiny. So how do we close that gap? How do we make sure that every child gets the education they deserve? One thing is sure: top performing systems tackle inequality head on. Singapore provides extra classes for the lowest performing 20% of students, and teachers often stay after hours to support them. New Zealand runs targeted programs like Reading Recovery to help struggling readers. These systems recognize that poorer families may invest in less education, so schools step up to fill the gap. But knowing what to do is just one thing. Doing it at scale for millions of children, that's the hard part. This is where the emerging science of delivery comes in. It is a proven set of methods to actually make reform work in government, turning bold ideas into real outcomes. It rests on 5 elements: political leadership, both a driver and a product of reform; ruthless prioritization, because overlooked agendas always fail; robust data, to track progress and to guide intervention; continuous learning, to adapt quickly and spread what works; and structured routines like regular high-level stock takes to maintain pressure and clear obstacles. In Punjab, Pakistan, these methods drove measurable progress, showing that even massive systems can improve. By combining equity-focused strategies with science of delivery, education systems can transform opportunities for millions. It's about more than designing policies. It's about making them real in every classroom for every child. And when we do, breakthrough change stops being a dream. It becomes our shared future. To learn more about Acasis and school reform, visit acasis.com.